is back, and we got games to discuss tonight, including Boise State versus South Florida, which kicks off here in about an hour or so, Nebraska versus Cincinnati in Arrowhead Stadium, and more. And I'm going to preview these matchups, discuss betting. I already got my bets in here. I'll share them to you guys before those games kick off. And my predictions. And to begin today's show, reporter for Action News, Jacksonville, Marcel Robinson joins the show to talk all things Jacksonville Jaguars football, including to give an update on Travis Hunter's upper body injury and whether he'll be ready for week one. Give an update on Trevor Lawrence, who James Gladstone, the GM down there, has some high words for, and much more. All this and more here on Bailey Price Media Live, here on the other side. Happy Thursday, everybody. What's going on? Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live. You're just getting in the building. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today for only $4.99. Best $4.99 you ever spent in your life. If you're watching, it's got lots to discuss here as college football is here. Many games going down tonight. I'm going to discuss betting and predictions for those games. But without further ado, we're going to discuss all things Jacksonville Jaguars football with our main man, reporter from Action News down in Jacksonville. My main man, Marcel Robinson, joins the show. Marcel, happy Thursday, my man. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm pretty good, brother. How you doing? It's crazy. We have to do so much down here. I didn't even know what the day of the week was until you said it.
Man, I'm great, man. It's great to be here. Great to discuss Jacksonville Jaguars with you, my man. Without further ado, I want to get into it here, kind of discuss your guys' star draft pick here. Travis Hunter coming from Colorado. I've gotten a chance to cover him over the last few years, and he's a hell of a player coming from Colorado. Great attitude and great character in himself. He's been dealing with an upper body injury from what I'm understanding here. I wanted to get your thoughts on his availability and whether he'll be ready for week one for the Jags.
No cause for concern. We talked to James Gladstone yesterday. He kind of let the media know that he's good to go. Week one, he'll be out there, which was kind of what we assumed it would be. Anyway, it's one of those things where, I mean, if you know about the preseason, you know what the preseason is. It's basically a glorified practice in some better looking uniforms. So we went down there for the joint practices against Miami. He participated, didn't do much team stuff. I think it's just one of those things where, as they've been telling us all week, pretty much all preseason, for all these guys that are a little banged up, it's just precautionary. There's really nothing to go out there to prove. Obviously, we see what we need to see from him in practice, and the Jags brass feels the same way. So fully expect him to be good to go versus Carolina Panthers.
Cool, and that makes me excited here. Excited to see what his role will be in Liam Cohen's offense with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. What are your expectations on how they'll use him? Obviously, we'll see him in some capacity on both sides of the ball, wide receiver in the slot, and then defensive back as well. But what are your expectations for how Liam Cohen will use him, at least on offense and then defensively as well?
It's a little tough to say just because obviously you don't know until you see it, right? So, I mean, only thing we can go by is what we see in practice, and the practices that we are allowed to see, we see how he's used. But of course, there are many walkthroughs and practices and sessions that we don't necessarily see. I mean, if you're asking me, I think it's kind of one of those things where they're going to kind of figure out, what his workload can be. He's shown the ability to carry, the workload, obviously in college, playing basically every snap, every game over there in Colorado, aside from the games that he missed due to injury. But, I think, the NFL is a little bit of a different animal. I wouldn't expect him to play 100% of the snaps on offense and 100% of the snaps on defense. It's just very tough to do. I think, they've talked about all season, all during the preseason. They have a plan for him. Of course, they're not going to reveal that plan to us because they revealed that plan to us. They revealed that plan to the other 31 teams in the league, right? Sure. But, if you're asking me from an opinion standpoint, I see him as a guy who he may not be your, it's tough to say that, Travis Hunter is your third option as a wide receiver. But in terms of kind of what it looks like on the field. I'm not expecting him to mirror Brian Thomas. I think he's going to definitely come in here and be wide receiver 2, and they're going to use him a lot on offense. Let's be honest, the whole thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars this entire offseason, going back to the draft, is to get Trevor Lawrence help, the guy that you're paying, the mint of money to, right? So I think his usage is primarily going to be used on offense. I think in defense, they get some packages for him. You throw him in there. Maybe I wouldn't necessarily, maybe not any nickel, but definitely it's a passing league in the NFL. So there's plenty of opportunities to get defensive backs on the field, right? So, I think it's one of those that he might not be CB1 or CB2 down here on the defense. That's just my opinion, but I definitely think we'll get our fair shake of, Travis Hunter on defense. But I would say primarily his usage, unless there's some injury concerns on the defensive backfield side, he's definitely going to be an offensive guy.
For sure. And I had Paul Spicer play for the Jaguars for a long time. And I asked him, how he thinks they should use Travis Hunter. He had a similar tone to you. And that makes me really excited because I think Travis, obviously he's got elite ball skills, is a great defensive back, and he's super electric with the ball in his hands. Last season, I had the chance to have Deion Sanders Jr. on my show with Matt McChesney, 0 to 60. And we asked him towards the end of the year, are we ever going to see Travis on special teams, maybe a punt return or something? I don't know. I just wanted to ask you, has there been any indication at a Jaguars camp at all by Gladstone or Liam Cohen or anybody about Travis being on special teams? Just curious.
There has been no inclination, utterance, whisper, statement, sentiment, whatever about that guy playing special teams. If we see Travis Hunter playing special teams, God help us all, for the most part, truthfully. One, because that means that all the investments they put in special teams has not panned out, which is a bad thing. But also, this is a guy you're relying on to, people are asking if he's going to be a two-way player, offense and defense. You would throw them out on special teams. No chance. I would be honestly shocked if we saw him on the special. As a matter of fact, he'd probably try to run out there on special teams and they grab him by his nameplate and drag him back.
That's 100%. No, Travis, he tried to get out there on all aspects of the field. I just think he would be dynamic as a returner with the ball in his hands. We've been saying that for a couple of years now with him going back to Colorado. Now, I want to ask you about Trevor Lawrence here, really the X factor and the key to the Jaguars season. Now, James Gladstone came out and said he's absolutely jacked with Trevor Lawrence's growth this offseason here. I wanted to show this clip and get your reaction. Take a listen.
Absolutely jacked at the progression that we saw from the offseason program to now where we're at through 3 preseason games and on the horizon of the regular season, because obviously going through so many different schemes throughout the early portion of his career, finding stability, finding confidence in understanding the intent of one play to the next, the operation, takes some time. And so Trevor was doing a phenomenal job operationally throughout the course of the offseason program and really being consistent in doing what was explicitly asked throughout the course of training camp.
Man, what are your expectations for Trevor Lawrence this season? Is this the season he bounces back and looks as good as he did with Doug Peterson?
The hope is that this is definitely the year, not just because of, what James Gladstone is saying, not just because we've seen in practice, but because this is really like he knows it himself that it's time, right? Yeah. It's time for him to kind of, show that consistency, which, that consistency word is funny because it's something that Trevor hasn't really had the opportunity to experience, is consistency. And even as, James has mentioned, that stability. I've had the pleasure of seeing every snap, every throw that Trevor has had since he arrived here in Jacksonville. And look, that first year we don't even talk about it here in 2021, his rookie year, the year that didn't happen pretty much. That's like in our business for the Jags media, that's our COVID. Like we just kind of like that wasn't here. Yeah. But I think one of the things is my expectation, Trevor's, he always says the right things and he always does the right things in terms of the preparation and everything. And we had the opportunity to talk to him not long ago as well. But, I think this is one of those cases where, you look at the kind of the trajectory of his career. You got him a guy in Doug Peterson who obviously, came in here and Trevor was able to do a lot of good things. But that the kind of downtrend came when, and I'm not the type of person just, being a former athlete, you don't want to put blame on injuries, but it is a real thing. Mm-hmm. You got a guy, you got Evan Ingram, his top tight end gets hurt. Christian Kirk, he's battled injuries while he was here. And it's just one of those things, offensive line injuries as well, just pieces shuffling, no consistency. And you ask any athlete, when you have moving pieces like that with no consistency, it definitely takes a toll. Now, it's not an excuse, and Trevor will be the first one to tell you that. And he's always said that to us. And he's always said that he has to play better. He has to play better. And obviously, the Jags have done everything they could to put all the pieces around him. And you go out and you get a head coach who's, has a history in kind of turning around quarterbacks' careers, if you will. Obviously, we saw that with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
You got Brian Thomas Jr. in his second year. You go out and get a Travis Hunter, De'Ami Brown. You invest in the running game, the offensive line. So, this is kind of one of those years where it's like, it's time to put up or shut up. And the good thing about Trevor is that he has definitely shown that kind of improvement and an understanding of like, hey, look, I got everything I need. They're giving me everything that I need, everything I'm asking for. It's time for me to go out there and play. And to be honest with you, from watching him in practice and even just the little bit of preseason action that we did see with him, and I know it's the offseason. Everybody wants the offseason, right? But he does look, better. One of the things that came in here that talked about kind of not necessarily rebuilding this thing from the studs, but, with Trevor working on kind of his footwork, his releases and all these things. And, when all that news kind of came out, everyone was like, well, this is a guy, he's been in the league. He's been in, successful in college. Why are you messing with all those mechanics and stuff? Like, well, because, anything can improve. Just in terms of kind of how he's, moving his body, the awareness and all that stuff. These are things that are this coaching staff has been very intentional about making sure that they're kind of, fine tuning those things. Both James Gladstone and Liam Cohen tell you the same thing coming in here. They actually like Trevor Lawrence. It's one of the reasons why they came here. They thought the guy had all the tools. He could make all the throws. And, I don't want to come across, I'm a little biased, obviously, because, I'm covering Trevor and I'm in the market, but the guy has all the tools. He can make every throw. He's a nice guy, but he is definitely an ultimate competitor. It's just a matter of stringing those things together. Sometimes in the past, he has tried to do a little bit more than he probably needed to. But that's because sometimes he's been in a position where he's had to kind of carry the load on his shoulders, and I think this coaching staff has done a good job of kind of getting him right up here and getting, his mechanics and everything together. And if he can string all that stuff together, watch out.
Man, okay. So now things are starting to come together this offseason. He's working on his mechanics, which I like to hear. Now I want to ask you about his potential in this offense. He's got 3 great wide receivers. Brian Thomas Jr., who I think can absolutely take over the NFL this season, become a premier receiver in the NFL, top of his rookie season. De'Ami Brown, who you guys got. Travis Hunter, who I can't wait to see him catch passes from T-Law. And then at the running back spot, ETM and Bigsby, you got 2 solid backs. What are your thoughts on T-Law's potential in the Jags offense this season? What are your expectations?
I think he's got everything that he needs to make this offense get up and go. I mean, truthfully, all of the guys that you named, but there are even some guys that, the people on the outside may not even know that are really kind of stepping up too. I'll give you another name. Those wide receivers you named, those 3, Travis, Brian, and De'Ami, but even a guy like a Parker Washington, who's your 4th wide receiver, guy's been like the star of camp all preseason, which is no surprise. Obviously, I've had the pleasure of watching him, his first couple years here. But even a guy like him coming in and making plays in the running back room is not just Etienne, it's not Bigsby. We have Bashal Tootin out of Virginia Tech, the rookie they just drafted. Guy can absolutely fly and is super strong pocket. He's basically like a little pocket rocket, and he gets going. So I think from it's all going to depend on the offensive line here, which has been like the most inconsistent part here in Jacksonville. But if we can get that offensive line to play up the cohesive unit, I mean, Trevor can sit back there and just pretty much wheel and deal all he wants to.
Yeah, and let's go bigger. Expectations on the Jaguars season in the AFC South. Got C.J. Stroud and the Texans, who seem to be the headliner in that division. Got Cam Ward and the Titans. I mean, who knows what they'll look like. What are your expectations for the Jags in that division?
I mean, I think the division is theirs if they want it. They just got to go out there and get it, truthfully. I think you just mentioned that Houston is obviously going to be the top pick for everyone, not just because of, the C.J. Stroud and their roster and everything, but because they look like the team that kind of controls the division. I personally, I love C.J. Stroud. I like the guy in college. I'm a Georgia guy, so when we played them, obviously in the college football playoff semifinal, I was hating that we had to play this guy because the guy's a certified baller. So when he came in to the AFC South, I was like, please, God, not this guy again. And he's done everything that I expected him to do. Tennessee's the wild card because, you don't know with Cam Ward and what that's going to turn into. Obviously, they've got some pieces and some tools over there, but, it's all still new. You don't really know how it's going to come together. Cam Ward is a certified playmaker. Problem is, what other playmakers look like around him? There's a familiar face up there, and Calvin Ridley, a guy that we got to watch here in Jacksonville for a little bit. But I think for me personally, if you ask me, it's going to come down to one of those three teams. I think the Jags definitely have the opportunity to go out there and take it. But at the end of the day, the AFC South has been kind of known as the powder puff division over here in the AFC South. So I think you string together 9 wins in the AFC South. I mean, you can win it, but it's just a matter of going out there and winning those games. They're all winnable. Obviously, the Jags have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because of the Houston game here last year with Trevor getting knocked out. So there's a little bit of that there. The rivalry's kind of intensified a little bit, but to answer your question, I think the Jags have everything that they need to go win it. It's just a matter of putting it together and going and doing it.
And I didn't even mention Indy. You have no fear of the Colts. They got Daniel Jones starting at quarterback. They beat out Anthony Richardson. Do you think they're last in the division? How do you feel about the Colts? I'm just curious.
I mean, I think that they've just got a lot to figure out in a short amount of time. Obviously the quarterback change, that's the monumental change over there. But they've got some pieces over there. But I think it's one of those things where they're kind of, it's not necessarily a distraction. But if I'm looking at the 4 teams, there's a lot less stability over there, really, if you ask me. And I just think it's one of those cases where they'll be competitive. I don't think that they're going to be picking first in the draft next year or anything like that. They might, but but in terms of competing with the other teams, it's really more about what the other teams have versus what they have or may not have. I don't see them competing with Houston or the Jags. Maybe steal one versus the Titans, but I could have trouble seeing them winning more than 2 games in the division. So
well said.
That's tough.
Gonna be tough for those over in Indy. Now, Marcel, I can't thank you enough for joining. My final question to you, this is kind of news that came out today across the NFL. Micah Parsons and the Cowboys they're hearing trade offers for Micah. I wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think the Jaguars have any interest in Micah Parsons? Do you think they may reach out? I saw something a few weeks ago. I don't know if this is hypothetical or not, but a hypothetical possible trade proposal, Devin Lloyd in the first and possibly ETN. Any thoughts on the Jaguars? Any interest in Micah Parsons? Go ahead.
I think when you hear the name Micah Parsons, I think all 32 teams, including the teams he doesn't want to be on, have interest in Micah Parsons.
Sure.
So I think that's a foregone conclusion. As far as the Jags' interest in him, I mean, look, like I said, it's Micah Parsons, so there's always you're not doing your job if you're not thinking, like if you're not giving it a thought. But for me personally, just kind of, and we don't know this, this particular staff super well. Obviously, they're very new, but it's one of those things where if you can find the type of package for him, sure, why not? I mean, the Jags have definitely shown that they have, complete confidence and complete faith with the 2 outside rushers we have here in Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker.
Yeah.
Not saying that, it's a passing league. You can never have too many pass rushers. But I would be a little shocked, to be completely honest with you, if there was a move made. I mean, those pieces that you mentioned, Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne. I mean, look, these are guys that they're certainly kind of prove it more a little bit with this coaching staff because they did not draft them, so they're not their guys.
Sure.
For the most part, they've shown the ability to produce during the preseason. Obviously, the regular season is a different beast. Travis Etienne is a funny name because everyone has been trying to get rid of him ever since Liam Cohen got here. But the guy honestly has shown up and done nothing but make plays. Whenever his number has been called, reports say that he's had the right attitude in terms of like, hey, look, guys, whatever y'all want me to do, I'm here. I'll do it. Whatever it is. So, could it happen? Sure. I mean, anything can happen. It's the NFL. I mean, no one thought that it was going to get this far with Micah Parsons. Everyone thought it was going to be like a Terry McLaurin situation. Like, hey, look, I don't like you. You don't like me, whatever. Hey, here's a bunch of money. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's go play ball. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case over in Dallas, but I don't necessarily think I foresee the future of Micah Parsons being right here in Duval County.
Well said, Marcel. Well said. I just want to get your perspective on it. Several teams have reached out to Dallas, and I don't know if Jacksonville will be in the running, but I think can't have enough pass rushers in the NFL. Marcel, can't thank you enough for joining. Love getting your perspective on the Jaguars as they prepare for their Week 1 matchup against Carolina. We'd love to have you back on again, man. I hope you have a great Thursday, man.
Absolutely, man. You too. I'm here whenever you need me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Shout out to Marcel Robinson, main man over at Action News Jacksonville, does a hell of a job and gave a great perspective on Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. Certainly is a lot more optimistic than when Matt McChesney and I discussed the Jaguars, and that's why we have him on, to get his perspective, get an actual perspective, boots on the ground down in Jacksonville. So I can't thank Marcel enough for joining here. If you're in the building here, go ahead and pound that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army. We got some more things to talk about here as we continue to discuss all things NFL and college football here. Let's get into it here. So before we dive into the games tonight, let's talk a little Colorado here. So I want to go back to Colorado's offensive line in 2024. Colorado used 23 different offensive line combinations in 2024, which is insanity. On top of their struggles to run the ball, averaging, I believe, around 65 yards a game per game rushing last season. Now, this season, I think this is going to change significantly. Obviously, you got Jordan Seaton at the left tackle, who is an absolute stud of a player. And take a listen to Matt McChesney and I raving about Jordan Seaton and his potential going into this season.
Look at this big son of a bitch, right?
Seaton looks good.
Look
dude.
at that fucking guy, dog. First pick in the draft. Jordan Seaton, when he comes out, is the first pick in the fucking draft.
Facts. If Jordan Seaton continues to work his way up as on top of his true freshman season last year, I don't think anybody or a lot of people really understood. He played that way as a true freshman last year. He was Shedeur Sanders' left tackle as a true freshman. Now, joining him in the left guard spot is Xavier Hill, coming over from Memphis. Played a ton of college football, extremely experienced and also extremely talented. I'm excited to see him. I'm also excited to see big Larry Johnson over at the right tackle position taking over, coming over from Tennessee here. I think that's something that can really be solidified as that right tackle position. I think big Larry Johnson is the guy to do it. Now at the right guard position, they got Zy Chrysler, Illinois transfer, who I expect to fill in, but I also think he's dealing with some injuries. So you could see some guys rotate there, but one thing I'm going to harp on Colorado is going to lean into the run game, or they must lean into the run game this season. Considering you bring in Marshall Faulk as your run game coordinator, Andre Girard, who's a Colorado alum, as your offensive line coach, along with George Hageman, who's already there and is an NFL alum. You got Gunnar White there, who's been with Coach Prime since Jackson State. So you have 3 offensive line coaches there. You've really put a lot of effort and intention in the coaching staff to running the football. You certainly got the personnel and the offensive line to lean into the run game. You got 2 great backs right now in Micah Welch and DeKalen Taylor. Also, you got Dallin Hayden, but he's out against Georgia Tech with a hand injury. But you got 2 great backs, so I expect Colorado to lean into. Also, you got the kid Price from Coastal Carolina that transferred over to Colorado, is hurdling over Cass in practice in the running back squad as well, I will mention. So 3 solid backs that Colorado can lean into. And at quarterback, Colorado will have Caden Salter at quarterback. And I think one of the things that will be the key to his success is Colorado leaning into the run game, which will help take pressure off the quarterback. I felt, going back to 2024, where Colorado used 23 different offensive line combinations, I felt as though if Colorado leaned into the run game a little bit more, it would have taken a lot more pressure off of Shedeur Sanders and the Colorado offense, potentially leading them to get above 9 wins, get to 10 wins or so, get in the Big 12 championship and or get in the college football playoff. So I feel as though this season, Colorado, I hope, learns from their mistakes. Coach Shermer, Pat Shermer, the offensive coordinator, I hope learns from the mistakes of last season and leans into running the football, because I think it's essential to Colorado's success in 2025. Let me know in the chat whether you agree or disagree here. And before we move on, Coach Prime was in an interview with Romy Bean. Shout out to her. She does a hell of a job. And Coach Prime described a certain scent he gets around the second quarter at Folsom Field here. Matt McChesney and I have discussed this at length, and we'll discuss this tomorrow on 0 to 60. But take a listen to this.
What do you think about Folsom, about this stadium that surprised you, that you didn't expect?
Yeah. The smell of weed in the second quarter, man, it surprised the heck out of me. Like every game, I'm like, dang, like it seems like it's like a light up quarter. You know what I'm saying? Like, so is this the quarter that y'all chose? Like, I'm serious, it's a TV timeout, it never fails, and I'm like, wow, what's going on? Because I've never been high a day in my life, so that's kind of new to me.
That's a bolder essential, I guess.
Truly.
Matt McChesney and I have discussed this at length, and that's pretty funny coming from Coach Prime. Matt discussed at Folsom Field. They're passing around joints and blunts, and that's Colorado for you. I ain't surprised one bit. Now, Colorado takes on Georgia Tech here tomorrow night. I can't wait to watch that and discuss that. And here on Bailey Price Media Live, we're going to be doing a live watch party here of Colorado versus Georgia Tech here, 7:30 p.m. Eastern here. We'll probably start a little bit early before the game here, get a little bit of betting going, a little bit of talking shit here, a little bit of predictions, but we're going to be doing a live watch party here. So mark your calendars here. And Mike has bad knees. I believe that. But mark your calendars here tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing a live watch party here on Bailey Price Media Live for the Colorado versus Georgia Tech game here. So tune in tomorrow night for a live watch party. Come in, kick it, talk shit. We'll be reacting here, and it's going to be a great, great time. Now, let's dive into some games for tonight here. So, obviously, it's on the thumbnail. Got Dylan Raiola in Nebraska taking on Cincinnati in Arrowhead here. Now, upon this game here, Deshaun Singleton, Nebraska defensive back, had some interesting comments here saying, "We finna make people in wheelchairs stand up." I hope you do. I know the Nebraska Cornhusker fans are coming in deep to Arrowhead. That doesn't shock me at all. The Cornhusker fans, this is every Nebraska game is their Super Bowl, because that's about it in Nebraska is Nebraska Cornhuskers football. So this is Nebraska Cornhuskers fans are coming in deep here for this game. Now, if we're going to look at betting here, this is going to be interesting because I believe Nebraska was 6.5-point favorites. I believe that number has gone down here. Let me get confirmation here. But right now, Nebraska, no, still at 6.5. Nebraska remains 6.5-point favorites against Cincinnati here at Arrowhead. Oh, its total over-under is at 51.5 here. Now, I am pretty high on Matt Rule in Nebraska, although this game smells like 6.5. Smells like, I don't know. I think Nebraska wins. I'd be shocked if they dropped this game to a Big 12 opponent, Cincinnati. Now, I think there's potential that this is a closer game. I think this is going to be a loud game in Arrowhead Stadium. I think both teams are going to travel deep. Will Compton, I know, is going to bring his gang of people out there. From what I understand, Travis and Jason Kelsey will be there on the Cincinnati side. Both of them are alumni at the University of Cincinnati. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth going on in the stadium here. Not that relates to on the field, but I think I really think this is going to be a battle. I don't think this is going to be a shootout by any means. I think there could be some points on the board, but I expect both teams to lean into the run game, especially Nebraska. I think that's going to be a key, especially to take the pressure off of Dylan Raiola, get him into a rhythm, and get him get the ball out to Barney and some of those receivers they got over in Lincoln. Now, my predictions on this here, I think Nebraska wins by a field goal here. If I'm betting this here, which I'm not betting this game, but I'll tell you which games I'm betting here in a second. But if I'm taking this game here, I would lean Cincinnati to cover their 6.5 points, but I still think Nebraska wins the game on a field goal. Over under, I could easily see this game going over, in my opinion. Nebraska, I could see it like 31-28 Nebraska, something like that. I'm not going to bet that total, but if you're asking my prediction on the score, that's where I lean. But I think Cincinnati covers, Nebraska wins that game here by a field goal. Let me know in the chat whether you disagree or agree here, and let me know your bets, your predictions here for Thursday of Week 1 of college football here. I'll tell you right now, I'll talk about the game. It's here about a kickoff here in an hour. Boise and South Florida. Boy, oh boy. I got a lot of friends at Boise. I got a lot of former teammates that played there. A lot of cats that I know in the Boise program. And that's tough because I'm rolling with South Florida. Give me South Florida money line. My bet's already placed. And I think everybody and their mama's on Boise. I think everybody and their mama thinks that Boise, a Mountain West team, can go fuck with the team like South Florida. And I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening. I already felt like that Boise last year when they had to travel down south and play teams like Georgia Southern and other teams that they won, but they struggle. I feel like that travel, especially in a Week 1 game where I think everybody's thinking that this is the Boise State that went to the playoff and had Ashton Genty. I don't know about that. Give me give me South Florida here. I also think their quarterback Bynum is much better than the quarterback over at Boise. If you're comparing the two quarterbacks, South Florida, that's the same quarterback that played against Alabama with South Florida. I think South Florida's hung against Alabama a little bit the last 2 years. I really like what they're doing with their program. I think they can take a step up this season. Give me South Florida money line against Boise. Now, in terms of other games that I actually bet today here, looking down the line here, I bet three other games here. I took Duke spread 36.5 points against Elon. I think Duke having Darian Mensah at quarterback with Manny Diaz as the head coach in his second year. I really like what he's doing there. And I think having a quarterback like Mensah, who I thought really did a great job at Tulane last year. Shout out to Sean King, Tulane legend, friend of the show. I thought Mensah did a hell of a job at Tulane last year. And I think he's going to really step that up this season at Duke. I took Duke's covering the 36.5 against Elon at home, by the way, on their blue turf out there. I also took Houston, the over in the Houston-Stephen F. Austin game. I think Houston's 23.5-point favorites, but I think in total that game is going to get pretty high scoring. Just in general, I think Houston getting the 30 or 40 range, and I think Stephen F. Austin could score 7 to 14 against them. So I'm just looking at totals here. I took the over in the Houston game. And then I also really liked the over in the San Diego State game later tonight. Sean Lewis's second year down there as the head coach at San Diego State. I think there could be a lot of scoring in that game potentially. San Diego State is 19.5-point favorites. Those are my bets that I placed for today. Let me know in the chat whether you disagree or agree with them. We'll come to find out whether those are true, but I'd love to hear your guys' bets, hear what you guys think here. Got several people in the chat here. Joey B's got Boise -5.5. Yeah, a lot of people are on Boise, Joey. I got all my former teammates. I have going back and forth with them on text talking shit. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rolling with South Florida tonight here. Mike has bad news. Says Boise's going to be upset. I don't know if there's much of an upset. I agree with you. I think Boise's going to lose, but I don't know if it's much of an upset. John Lelick's got South Florida and Jacksonville State money line. Jacksonville State loses their coach, Rich Rodriguez. You think Jacksonville State takes out UCF? Woo, plus 800. Boy, shit. That would be a hell of a pick if you got that. UCF and Scott Frost's first game at home? Oof. In Orlando? Oh, shit. All right. That's a bold prediction there, John. Mike, if Duke can't beat, yeah, facts. That's exactly why I'm leading on it. But I think I should think Duke had a pretty solid season last year in the ACC. I think Manny Diaz is a good coach. I think Darian Mensah is a good quarterback. And I'm excited to see how they play in week 1 here. I'm leaning into them. Joey B, you're asking me about Georgia Tech, Colorado tomorrow. Oh, come on. You know where I'm leaning on that one. You already know. Don't even get me started. You already know where I'm leaning on that one. Woo. I'll save my prediction on that one for tomorrow. But I think we know we're leaning on that one. I do have an interesting prediction on the total, though. I think everybody and their mom is betting the over, and I'll give you this right now. I think the game's going under. I said this to Matt yesterday. I think it's going to be kind of a run-heavy, both Colorado and the new, larger offensive line. And Georgia Tech, we know, pounds the rock. They got Jamal Haynes at running back, Haynes King at quarterback, who definitely can run as well. I expect both of those teams to pound the rock. I expect it to be a slower under game. Yes, Joey, under 51.5 for sure. At least that's how I'm rolling. I think a lot of people are rolling with the over. Let me say this. Caden Salter is absolutely capable of putting up 40 points at Colorado. Colorado's got all kinds of weapons at receiver. I mean, shit, he's got all kinds of weapons at his disposal. So I would definitely say over is attainable. But if you're asking me and how I think the game's going to go, I think it's going to be slower. Both teams are going to pound the rock, especially in game 1 for Salter. I think as he settles in the season, you could see him start to air it out more. But I think game 1, especially against Georgia Tech, where Colorado is going to really, I think, try and lean into the run game here. And I would definitely take the under in that one, Joey. But yeah, this has been a good kind of preview here for Thursday of week 0 of college football. I will note on the Colorado-Georgia Tech game, I will be doing a live watch party tomorrow night here. So tune into that. Come in, talk shit. It'll be a great time, and I can't wait for it. But here's a fun fact. Shout out to Locked On Buffs. They do a hell of a job. Georgia Tech is 3-9 when Haynes King has 30-plus passing attempts in a game. I don't think he's going to pass the ball 30 times against Colorado. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Colorado's secondary is pretty legit too now. You got McKinney, Preston Hodge, Johnson out there. You got the kid Tion Parks. I mean, I can go on and on. I haven't gotten to the safeties. Like, it's just I don't see that. I don't see Haynes King throwing it more than 30 times. So I don't know if that stat's going to matter. But I think Colorado has a tricky task on their hands at stopping Haynes King. I am excited to see how Coach Livingston addresses that. But this has been a good prediction show here on this fine Thursday. Drop your predictions in the chat. Who you got here? I can't wait to react to the games here. You got South Florida and Boise State kicking off in less than an hour. I already mentioned I got South Florida money line here. Give me South Florida at home with Bynum at quarterback here in game one for them. I also got Duke versus Elon. I got Duke covering 36.5. I know that total, I believe, is up a couple points, but I still think they bowled them the hell out. And Darian Mensa's first game on the blue turf out there. Shout out to Manny Diaz, the coach over there. I got over in the Houston game of 54.5, over 53.5 in the San Diego State game. That total in the San Diego State game, I believe, is up to 54.5 now. I will know. But, man, good prediction show. Drop your predictions in the chat. Let me know. Can't wait to come back here tomorrow here on Bailey Price Media Live. We'll be live at 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow and then live for Colorado's first game against Georgia Tech at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Well, that game is at 6:30 Mountain, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But we'll be live here a little bit early to talk betting, predictions, etc. So tune into that tomorrow. Lots of stuff coming here on Bailey Price Media Live. If you're watching, go ahead and pound that like button. Can't thank you enough for supporting the show. The more you pound that like button, the more the channel grows and the bigger the community gets. So pound that like button, subscribe, become a member. Same thing. The more members we get, the bigger the community grows. So become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. That link is pinned in the top of the chat. And we'll be live here tomorrow on Bailey Price Media Live. Matt McChesney and I will also be live on 0 to 60. His son's dealing with stuff with his knee, so we didn't go live today. Prayers up to Nick McChesney and his knee. Prayers for his recovery. And we'll be live tomorrow over on 0 to 60 as well. So lots of new shit coming here. And can't thank you all enough for supporting here. Hit that like button, subscribe, become a member, and I will see you tomorrow, folks. Peace.